Hello, my name is Deborah Kavanaugh Grant, University of Illinois Extension Local Food Systems and Small Farm Educator, welcoming you to our presentation on Community-Supported Agriculture. Our objectives for today will include learning about the history of CSAs as well as the various models and characteristics that define this direct farm marketing practice. You will also learn about resources and organizations that provide CSA information and support. The topics that we will cover will include: what is community-supported agriculture, the history of CSAs, how CSAs work, models and characteristics of CSAs, and resources and organizations. What is community-supported agriculture? Community-supported agriculture consists of a community of individuals who pledge support to a farm operation so that the farmland becomes, either legally or spiritually, the community's farm, with the growers and consumers providing mutual support in sharing the risks and benefits of food production. The methods of operating a CSA are as varied as the farmers and communities where they are located, although there are some common characteristics. These include an emphasis on community and/or local produce, shares or subscriptions that are sold prior to the season's beginning, and weekly deliveries to members or subscribers. Let's step back and briefly discuss the history of CSAs. The information that I will share comes from an excellent article, The History of Community-Supported Agriculture, written by Stephen McFadden. The CSA movement started in the United States in 1986. The ideas that informed the first two American CSAs were articulated in the 1920s by Austrian philosopher Rudolf Steiner, and then actively cultivated in post-World War II Europe in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The ideas crossed the Atlantic and came to life in a new form, CSA, simultaneously but independently in 1986 at both the Indian Line Farm in South Egremont, Massachusetts, and Temple Wilton Community Farm in Wilton, New Hampshire. Robyn Van En was the co-founder and original owner of Indian Line Farm and is widely recognized as one of the true pioneers of the CSA movement. In the fall of 1985, the group undertook a project with an apple orchard, distributing apples as well as cider, hard cider, and vinegar. The core group then started the CSA Garden at Great Barrington, an unincorporated association managed on behalf of all the shareholders, with Susan Witt, John Root Jr., Van En, and John Vander Tuin acting as principals. The association entered into a 3-year lease with Van En to use land at Indian Line Farm for a garden starting in 1986. Robyn went on to write the pamphlet, Basic Formula to Create Community-Supported Agriculture, to produce a video, It's Not Just About Vegetables, and in 1992 to found CSA North America, a nonprofit clearinghouse to support CSA development. In 1997, at the age of 49, Robyn died of an asthma attack. Her contributions were later recognized in the naming of a National Clearinghouse of Information, the Robyn Van En Center for CSA Resources. After Van En's death, her son was forced to sell the farm. The farmers who had been working the land by Elizabeth Keene and Alexander Thorpe could not afford to buy it. But with the help of the Schumacher Society, they partnered with the Community Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy to buy Indian Line Farm in 1999. They are still operating the farm today. The Temple Wilton Community Farm started about 80 miles to the northeast in New Hampshire, the same year that the CSA Garden at Great Barrington started in Massachusetts. The farm began with a series of conversations between the founders, Anthony Graham, Traeger Grow, and Lincoln Geiger, and others in the community in the fall of 1985. The principals, Graham, Grow, and Geiger, met with the folk in the CSA Garden at Great Barrington. They too began their first full season in 1986. The overall philosophy of the farm evolved from some of Rudolf Steiner's ideas and is a unique model. They decided to sever the direct relationship between the money needed to operate the farm and the produce that comes through the bounty of nature. In order to do this, they ask the whole membership to meet the proposed budget by having each family pledge to contribute as much as they can manage. The farmers then set out the produce so that the members could take what they needed rather than taking a specific portion of the harvest. Let's move now to learning more about how CSAs work. Community-supported agriculture consists of individuals. They can be called members or shareholders, pledging support in advance, covering the anticipated costs of the farm operation and farmer's salary. In return, these members or shareholders receive shares in the farm's bounty throughout the growing season, as well as satisfaction gained from reconnecting to the land and participating directly in food production. Members also share in the risks of farming, including poor harvests due to unfavorable weather or pests. By direct sales to community members who have provided the farmer with working capital in advance, growers receive better prices for their crops, gain some financial security, and are relieved of much of the burden of marketing. The publication Community-Supported Agriculture Resource Guide for Farmers defines 4 types of CSAs. These models include producer-initiated CSA, member-initiated CSA, multiple producer CSA, and organization-initiated CSA. The producer-initiated CSAs are the most common. These are started by farmers interested in alternative marketing and strengthening their connection to consumers. The member-initiated CSAs are when a group of interested consumers works together to find a local farmer to produce their food. Multiple producer CSAs are where several farmers band together to provide consumers with a wide variety of products. Organization-initiated CSAs are where businesses, churches, and schools organize a community of consumers employing a farmer to manage the CSA. In the spring of 2009, the University of Kentucky Horticulture Council and the New Crop Opportunities Center sponsored a direct mail survey of CSA farms and farms using the CSA concept. More than 300 farms in Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and West Virginia responded to the survey. The information about characteristics of CSA was informed from the survey and can be found in the publication Community-Supported Agriculture at the URL shown on this slide. We will shift our focus to the characteristics of CSA and will discuss the following: community, shares and subscriptions, delivery, pricing shares, waiting lists, consistency, and communication. As was previously discussed, community is the underpinning of CSAs. Early CSAs often provided the opportunity for the members or subscribers to work on the farm, along with the payment of a small fee. There are still some CSAs that offer this option, but most operate on a subscription-only basis. Although members may not be providing labor, CSAs provide ample opportunities for members to feel connected to the farm at the weekly pickup, field days, or other farm events, as well as via the internet with emails, newsletters, and blogs. A share was originally the term used to describe a box of produce that would supply the weekly needs of a family of 4. Traditionally, CSA customers invested in the farm before the season began, providing the farmer with operating capital that was needed to begin production. Through that investment, members were subject to the risks and rhythms of the season. Shares reflected production allowed by weather and growing conditions. Under the majority of current CSA arrangements, a share is probably better described as a subscription. It represents a commitment by the member consumer to receive a certain amount of product over a certain course of time. CSAs now offer their members numerous options to customize their shares. As eating locally grown and organic foods has increased in popularity with consumers, a share has come to represent less of an equity commitment and more of a market commitment from the member. Some CSAs offer the option for members to select the produce for their weekly boxes. The farmer lays out baskets of the week's vegetables. Some farmers encourage members to take a prescribed amount of what's available, leaving behind just what their families do not care for. Some CSA farmers then donate this extra produce to a food bank. In other CSAs, the members have wider choice to fill their box with whatever appeals to them, with certain limitations. For example, just one basket of strawberries per family, please. The appeal for many CSA subscribers is the fact that they can receive farm fresh produce at a convenient location. There are varied options for deliveries. These include distributed at a central location, a farmer's market, church, or perhaps a member's home where other members pick up their boxes, distributed at the farm, or delivered directly to a member's home. One of the reasons that you may consider CSAs as a marketing option as a new grower with limited capital is the sale of shares. The sale of these shares allows you to sell your produce before you produce it, providing you with needed funds for your production expenses. CSA shares in the U.S. typically are priced between $300 and $1,000 per season. There are numerous variations of this concept, including offering half shares. As shown on the slide, Sally's Fields offers customers a full share and half share option. CSA offers various lengths of shares and options for what is provided. There are egg, meat, fruit, and even flour shares. An aside, Sally is a graduate of both the Growing a New Generation of Fruit and Vegetable Growers and the Central Illinois Farm Beginnings programs. In the University of Kentucky CSA survey, producers rated their overhead and fixed costs of production as the most important factor in setting their share price. In other words, many producers use their CSA shares to cover the cost of production that they know for certain they will incur during the year. Some producers that are also marketing through other channels, farmers markets and restaurants are the most common, set their share price to cover their upfront expenses for their entire crop. A recommended method for pricing CSA shares is as follows. First, estimate what the production expenses will be for the season. 2. Estimate the number of labor hours you will use or hire to produce for the CSA. And lastly, estimate the hourly wage rate that you would like to earn from your CSA production. Setting share prices with all expenses in mind is crucial to ensure that the CSA is profitable. Whether you choose to set share prices to cover total costs or simply the variable costs of producing CSA market baskets, knowing these costs will help you serve your customers more efficiently and facilitate the growth of the CSA. Related to the topic of pricing shares are contracts and pricing plans. The University of Kentucky CSA survey found that the beginning CSA operators were more likely than existing operators to use customer contracts to help plan for their CSA production. The survey also found that slightly less than half of the CSA surveys required their customer members to sign a membership contract. CSAs utilizing contracts were generally those just starting production or those with fewer than 25 members. Businesses that are based on relationships, like a CSA, may move away from formal contracts over time after building a core base of repeat customers. A great resource for legal issues for small farmers is Farm Commons. You can find a model CSA member agreement at the URL shown on the slide. I would also like to suggest that you view the excellent Farm Commons webinar, Put Your CSA on Strong Legal Footing. The webinar is described as follows. CSA is an incredibly unique relationship between farmer and customer, but this means it also has unique legal dynamics. CSA farmers who critically analyze their membership agreement, drop sites, and farm event programs beforehand set themselves up for success. Learn how an attorney sees CSA and what you can do to protect your farm. This webinar will also discuss risks with farm volunteer programs and buying the right insurance. This webinar is funded by the USDA Risk Management Agency. The URL for the webinar is also shown on the slide. According to the UK survey, more than 3/4 of the CSAs offered some form of payment plan for their members. The most common form of payment plan was simply to offer members the option to pay in 2 or more installments throughout the season. This differs from the original CSA concept, which often required members to pay up front. Other CSAs offer members the option of making a deposit in the winter or early spring, then paying the balance by a certain date. If choosing to offer a payment plan for your CSA, be sure to have initial payments that will adequately cover your earliest season expenses and have contingency plans for people that may not complete their installment payments. The waiting list is simply a list of potential members maintained by the CSA. Why would you want to keep a waiting list? They can help in recruiting more members, and they may also create an air of exclusivity. CSA waiting lists of approximately 200 CSAs surveyed in the University of Kentucky study ranged in length from a few days to 2 years. As a new grower considering your marketing channels, you need to be aware of the importance for the consistency of the produce quality when managing a CSA. Your production plan will need to reflect the variety of what you are growing, and this needs to be shared with your members. Your members have made a commitment and understand the notion of shared risk. Thinking of your current growing season, members need to understand that continuous and often heavy rain for several weeks has an impact on production. Before starting a CSA, you need to develop the skills to provide a continuous supply of crops. Many successful CSAs started off by selling at farmers markets or roadside stands. One way that CSA producers can enhance the consistency of their market basket is to expand the diversity of the products in that basket. This can be done by extending the produce season using high tunnels or hoop houses, row covers, different varieties, and other season extension techniques. It can also be done by using products that you did not produce yourself, purchasing these from other farmers. With the focus on community and members subscribers, effective communication is critical. Pictured is Chad Wallace of Oak Tree Organics. Chad and his family have a CSA, a local online market, and sell at the Old Capitol Farmers Market in Springfield. They have a very effective communication plan to network with their current and potential customers. Many CSAs provide weekly newsletters that include information about the farm as well as recipes. As with all farm marketing, a presence on the internet is very important. In the UK study, they found that 85% of the survey respondents shared that electronic communication is important or very important for their CSA. There are several websites that provide free or minimal cost listings. We will be discussing these shortly. Using social media to communicate with current and future customers is very important. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest are good sites to consider. Check out the Land Connections Social Media Starter Kits. See the URL on the slide. Also check out TLC's Social Media Marketing for Farmers webinar series to listen to the recorded webinars. The University of Kentucky survey also found that the best advertising was word of mouth, but good websites and email communication were also important. CSAs also found it beneficial to advertise at farmers markets, community centers, government offices, co-ops, health food stores, and places of worship. There are several organizations and resources that may be of interest. Let's discuss a few of them. The Robyn Van En Center is a nonprofit organization hosted at the Fulton Center for Sustainable Living at Wilson College in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. The center was established to continue the vision of Robyn Van En, as we mentioned, a pioneer of the CSA movement in America. What started as a regional effort to support CSA in the Northeast has expanded and become a growing national movement. The center was started in 1998, and in 2001 it assumed the management of the USDA National Database of CSA Farms. The database can be found at the URL shown on the slide. CSA farmers are encouraged to take advantage of the opportunity to list themselves on the website. The center also has a resource center and library, mail order publications, and provides technical assistance and support services. The CSA Solutions Hub, developed by Small Farm Central, is a great resource. If you are considering developing a CSA or are currently managing one, I would suggest that you check this out. The Hub provides articles on CSA farming, like their popular 47 Tips and Tricks for CSA Marketing, an invitation to the CSA Farmer Discussion Group to meet other CSA farmers, a royalty-free photo archive of images and illustrations that you can use for marketing and on your website, access to a video archive featuring advice from top CSA farming experts, free invitations to web chats with CSA experts like Chris Blanchard of the Flying Rutabaga and Jean-Paul Cortens of Roxbury Farm, a monthly email update with news and advice from the CSA farming community. There are several excellent websites, including Buy Fresh by Local Central Illinois and Local Harvest. These sites are a great place for potential new customers to learn more about CSAs and how to find one in their community. As was previously mentioned, some sites are free and others are available at a small fee. For example, in the two sites mentioned above, the Buy Fresh by Local site membership is $45 for farm, and there is no charge to sign up for Local Harvest. Band of Farmers is a coalition of community-supported agriculture farms serving the greater Chicago area. Borrowing heavily from the groundbreaking work of Fair Share CSA Coalition in Madison, Wisconsin, Band of Farmers joined forces primarily to collaborate on educating consumers about local foods in general and the CSA model in particular. Band of Farmers is a project of the Illinois Stewardship Alliance. This slide provides the URLs for finding a CSA. The next two slides provide information about CSAs, several that were shared in this presentation. As a beginning grower, possibly considering pursuing operating a CSA, this presentation provided you with a brief history, some specifics about the models and characteristics that define CSAs, and organizations and resources that can provide needed assistance and support. The Local Harvest website shares some benefits about CSAs for both farmers and consumers. For farmers, the benefits include getting to spend time marketing the food early in the year before field work begins, receiving payment early in the season, which helps with your farm's cash flow, and having an opportunity to get to know the people who eat the food you grow. The benefits for consumers include eating ultra-fresh food with all the flavor and vitamin benefits, getting exposed to new vegetables and new ways of cooking, often getting to visit the farm at least once a season. Kids typically favor food from their farm, even veggies they've never been known to eat, and developing a relationship with the farmer who grows your food and learning more about how food is grown. In closing, I would like to share a quote from Stephen McFadden that captures the essence of CSAs. As we know from its beginnings, CSA is not just a clever new approach to marketing. Community farming is about the necessary renewal of agriculture through its healthy linkage with the human community that depends upon farming for survival.